All right, thanks. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, doke. So yeah, we're being challenged to evolve and grow as far as our proficiency, our skills, how we produce value for audiences, which then become the basis for the economics of our companies. And so while that's occurring, we're also being challenged to bring a next generation and make it so that their careers are looking as if they can be fruitful and rewarding in all the ways that we've enjoyed. So I think those are the two areas that we really have to be kind of every day cognizant and active in terms of growing ourselves, in terms of how we apply some of the basic skills that we have to the technologies that our audiences are relating to and engaging with, and how they find us, and then when at the same time what we use to do that. So, and then the other part is really sort of how to make it so that we can retain brilliant people and make it so that they really want to be in our organizations. Lori joined Hanley Wood a couple of years ago. She'll give you the exact timing. She's been really sort of an amazing resource to work with on how both the content organization certainly, and really across all of Hanley Wood, which has lots of different disciplines, can sort of address these challenges in being able to kind of try to keep pace with how technology is changing our world, and how to keep it so that talented people are able to grow and grow with us. So I think that's really the scope of what Lori's going to address today, and I'm really looking forward to her remarks.
Great. Well, this is Lori Anderson here. Thanks so much, John, for the kind words and for inviting me to share what we do here at Hanley Wood, and thanks everybody for joining. Ryan, you can go ahead and advance the slide. Okay, so the learning, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I do, what our challenges are, and the kaleidoscope of offerings that we have here at Hanley Wood. John, you were almost right. I started working for Hanley Wood 3 years ago this week, so I'm celebrating my 3-year anniversary here. So my role, I'm a department of one, and I work within the Human Resources Department here. So I am focused on corporate learning and development, which simply put is all of the learning resources that we have and activities that we do that span the entire company. That's the major role. Also fitting into that are departmental activities as well, to a smaller degree. I'm also involved in employee engagement and the employee intranet in terms of making sure that our employee communications all have some sort of a learning component to them. I run the employee awards functions here. We have 2 different employee awards, and we make sure that both of those awards tie into some sort of a quality that meshes with our company values. So we kind of use the awards to model what we're looking for, and then of course we train to those characteristics as well. I run the performance appraisal process as well, and then I do backup functions for the HR team. So you can advance the slide again, Ron.
Okay.
Okay, so the challenges here at Hanley Wood, in terms of learning and development, everything that we do needs to, of course, align with our values, which happen to be challenge, connect, and cultivate. One of the big challenges that we have here is that we run very lean. So our employees have very limited time for classroom training. That also goes for, say, sitting at your desk and looking at a 1-hour webinar. so we've got a little bit of a challenge there. Another thing, and I know John kind of talked about this a little bit, was engagement and retention. We had some rising stars either be recruited away or get other offers, and we were able to save them. And so every time that happened, my strategy would be more, let's prevent that happening, right? So let's engage employees, talk about career pathing so that they're not looking or they wouldn't be as enticed to leave. We had a need for succession planning. We needed a better bench so that we would have people ready to go into either larger roles or the next step up. And then because Hanley Wood has 3 different business platforms, when I arrived in 2015, the motto was, let's break down the silos. Let's have everybody working together and have greater awareness of what the 3 different platforms are doing. So removing silos is a work in progress. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's another thing that is taken into consideration anytime we do training is who can benefit from this and how can we get the widest audience and the most coverage for each piece of learning that we conduct. And then I'm sure this is nothing that we only deal with, but we have a very modest budget. And so everything that I do has to be justified, it has to parallel a business need, and it has to be inexpensive. Okay, so we can advance the slide and I'll show you sort of how we approach some of the sort of our training buckets here at Hanley Wood. We view employee communication, or at least I do, as a learning resource. We needed skills training, so we needed to be able to...
You are now being connected to the conference. Please stand by.
We needed to be able to upskill. We also needed to be able to maintain skills for some of our more veteran employees. We needed better management training so that people are not getting management training when they arrive at management, but before they arrive at management so that they feel more prepared and confident. And then overall, we needed better performance management so that everyone has a feeling that they're working either upward or working to expand their role. And we needed mentoring to get networking really going across the departments and across the company. So you can see here, I'll explain briefly each of these things that are under the major bucket ideas here. Under employee communication, we have an intranet where we post all of our company announcements, and I also post links to different types of learning content. We use orientation and benefits videos that are created by a company called GuideSpark. They're animated videos, and they're kind of, each of them are very short, but it really helps get our employees off on the right start in terms of understanding their benefits as benefits become more individualized. We also have CEO town halls with Peter Goldstone, our CEO. Those are held quarterly, and it's a time for announcements, but also one of those ask me anything type of sessions. So I think employees get a lot out of that, and there's a lot of learning that happens in terms of what the company needs for them and where they're going. And I think it gives a lot of people clues as to where their skills need to be as well. Under skills training, we have a learning portal. It's a learning management system. The current learning portal that we have is outdated, so we're getting ready to get a new learning portal, which will allow me to upload content and then send employees on learning paths. So I'm excited about that. We use lynda.com on a limited basis. We have 50 licenses currently, and the nice thing about lynda.com is that you can use that to kind of strategically conduct upskilling across the company. You can have teams working with lynda.com. It can be used for like lunch and learn sessions. You can sit around and watch the videos. So we've got a lot of value out of our lynda.com subscriptions. Getting to the limited budget aspect of my challenge here, lynda.com is also available through public libraries. So where I can, when I have a need beyond our 50 seats, I'll push people out to their public library to get their own access to lynda.com for free. And you can get free access to the entire catalog through your public library in most major cities. We have set up, in particular with the editorial team, live stream lunch and learns, which and last year we did once a month. And we brought in subject matter experts from within the editorial team and from relevant departments to talk about a host of different subjects. Those became popular pretty quickly, and we had other people from around the office join us for those lunch and learns. What I found pretty quickly when I joined Hanley Wood is that there's a lot of genius under the roof here. And there's enough genius here that I could probably fill another 2 years of lunch and learns with just simple skill sharing, talking about what they do, how they do it, what their challenges are, and what's worked for them. I think we just sort of tapped into that in this past year, and there's a lot more there that we can access. Those lunch and learn sessions are recorded, and then the videos are placed. Right now they're on our intranet, but eventually they'll go into our learning management system, and they'll be used for onboarding and just made available to all the employees in the company. We also have an internship program for college students and people who have just graduated, and that has ended up being a career pathway program. We've ended up hiring a good number of our interns, and that program is, of course, hands-on, but it involves a lot of one-on-one training, particularly within our editorial department. For management training, we have an HR leadership membership with Corporate Executive Board, which is now called Gartner. And through that membership, we have access to monthly live online management and leadership workshops for all of our employees, not just managers. But those training sessions are throughout the year. They cover the entire employee sort of life cycle, from how to hire a new employee, how to onboard an employee, and on through the end of the life cycle. So those have been valuable, and that's just an added perk to an HR membership that we already had. We have employees all across the country, and in California, it's mandatory that you provide harassment prevention training. And so we use M-Train for our online harassment prevention training. And instead of just training managers who manage employees in California, we train all of our managers once a year. And then on an ad hoc basis, we've utilized American Management Association seminars. Those are sort of an as-needed resource that we do when the need arrives. If someone has a specific topic that they need help with, we can send them to an AMA seminar. Under performance management, a rather new program that we've started within the last year is the Accelerated Development Track. And some of you may recognize this concept as a high potential employee program, where we have rising stars who would like to hold either a management role or an expanded role. These are people who have been identified by their managers as someone who we should put on a quick promotion track, and we do a very individualized program with that employee where we develop a curriculum of training that will get them from point A to point B within a 12 to 18-month time span. That came about because we needed to work on retention of our high potential employees. But again, for me, that's more of an engagement issue. So anyone who is put in our accelerated development track has an individual development plan, which speaks to their strengths and development areas, and it also creates a customized list of learning activities. Some of those learning activities could be mentoring. It could be access to stretch work. It could be access to a larger network of people. It could be a big item, like it could be going for a professional certificate, or it could be going into a mini MBA program. So it's going to be different for everyone, but it's an individual plan that meets a business need, and sometimes it fits into succession planning. So that particular program, I know John has an employee in that program, and maybe he can chime in on how that's working. And then, of course, we have our annual performance appraisals as part of our performance management system. Then we have a new mentoring program, which we just started. Right now it's voluntary, and it is structured, but only structured enough to just provide some support to the employees who are participating in the program. We started off by having mentors apply and mentees apply, and then the Human Resources Department did the matching, which was a very interesting process, managing people who may or may not, these matches of people who may or may not know each other. And remember, we've got 3 different platforms that we could match across with many different departments there. So that was interesting and a challenge at the same time. In the future, our matches will be handled by our new intranet, which has a mentor match algorithm in it that will help people find each other a little bit easier. So
sounds like a dating site or something now.
It really felt like that in the Human Resources Department. So yeah, exactly. So that is sort of the landscape that I'm working with in terms of resources that go toward learning and development here at Hanley Wood.
Lori, what are some of the metrics you deal with? Obviously, retention would be one. Is there, involvement, or how do you see that?
Yeah, so metrics in terms of where we allocate some of these resources, or?
No, I mean for you, like how do you know when these things are working or not?
Yeah, so it's a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to measure, particularly since, one way of measuring these things is through performance appraisals and looking at last year against this year. But our performance appraisals are all manual and on paper. So it's really hard to do. I don't have any hard data. I have a lot of feedback,
right.
But no real data. I can look at usage of some of our some of our products, like Linda and MTrain and our LMS will provide good metrics in terms of participation and completion.
Right.
Yeah, but in terms of whether someone is performing better because of learning and development, that's a really hard thing to prove.
Sure. Yeah. I was curious, in the lunch and learn, do you provide lunch, or do people?
We have not provided lunch. It's
Okay.
sort of a brown bag lunch and learn.
Okay, that could increase
That's a good
participation,
question.
providing.
Remember, we have a very limited budget.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'd be happy to get more questions.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes, or we can take a couple questions now, or after the next presentation, which is similar. Does anyone have something now?
This is Dan Gretsch, and I did have a question kind of following up on the how do you measure success. And I was wondering, if you train a group of people, by the way, Ron, would it warrant introducing myself since I'm probably a new voice on the call?
Sure.
So I'm a new SIPA member. My name is Dan Gretsch, and Ron was generous enough to invite me to join this call because I have a pretty extensive journalism background. I spent 15 years at NPR's Marketplace and PBS's Nightly Business Report and at the Washington Post and the Miami Herald before I started my own business, which is a digital marketing training academy. And, I've been a pointer many times, so I'm really excited to hear the second half of this presentation. And I do a lot of corporate training for my business. So that was sort of why I was invited to join the call, and I'm very grateful, Ron, for that. So my question is, it seems to me like there could be a way to measure the success of training, which is sort of, look at kind of revenue attributed to a department before the training and then after. And I wonder, and I even met a startup here in Miami where I'm based that actually does that service. And I know your budget is really small, and probably you're scraping and scrapping and fighting to keep it even at the small level at that. And I do wonder, like we know, those of us in the training space, that probably the most efficient spend you can make is capacitating your team. And I was just curious how you think about this, and if there might be a way to actually measure and attribute revenue to learning.
Yeah, well, I think there could be if you were, if I think about our lunch and learns, right? So if we did a session on SEO, right, that could be the sort of thing where, you might be able to see a spike within a certain time frame after training, right? So there could be some short-term data there as well as long-term data. So you're right. I think there could be ways. We just haven't done it yet.
Okay. Thanks. You know what? Let's move into the next presentation that Dan mentioned, and then I think we'll have a few minutes after that for calls for questions for Lori or Vidisha, who's coming up. Lori, can you hang with us for a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought that we had this presentation of what's going on in-house at one of our members, that it would be great to hear from someone that delivers the training to professional journalists, and nobody has a better reputation than Pointer. So I was very happy when I reached Vidisha Priyanka, who is the Vidisha. I have interactive learning manager at Pointer.
Yes, I'm the interactive learning manager at Pointer. And hello, Dan. Dan is one of our teachers here. I'm still trying to bring him back.
Oh, and I'm sorry I changed jobs since we last spoke, but I'm eager to come back. It's good to hear your voice.
Okay.
And actually, I was also it was also nice to hear that when Vidisha said that they had gone into North Coast Media, who is a Connective member, and done some training. So she's familiar with what we do. So yeah, please, Vidisha, it's floor is yours.
So thank you, Ron, for inviting me to talk. I was looking at Lori's presentation. I was thinking, oh, I didn't prepare this methodically. But a lot of what Lori was saying resonates because we started the whole teaching and e-learning component of journalism education because our industry that we cater to, journalism, is was dwindling its resources, and we were having trouble getting people to come to St. Petersburg to train. So we had to think about how we could still train journalists and yet be cost effective. So that was one of the reasons that we started the e-learning, which is newsu.org, which is part of the online training institute of Pointer. So let me tell you all a bit about Pointer. We train professional journalists, and we train them at every stage of their career. And we used to do like 5-day long seminars, which was like, mindfulness, and it was like a spiritual retreat for journalists almost. It was, get in touch with your idealism, learn what is possible, learn about the future of journalism, and come here to St. Petersburg for a 5-day seminar. But we soon realized that first, people didn't have time to spend 5 days. Second, they didn't have the money to send people to St. Pete with the hotel costs or whatever, even though our tuition was very, very low because we were funded by grants. We were funded by the newspaper dividends because we own the Tampa Bay Times. And we used to get lots of dividends in the early years when we started. But gradually we had to think about, okay, we still have to sustain ourselves. We are an educational institute and continuing education institute for journalists, and we are trying to fill the gaps in the curriculum of universities, right? So, a couple of things. First, as you all can hear, I have an accent, and I speak really, really fast. So if you do not understand anything, please jump into the chat box and ask a question. Also, I would love for you all to ask questions of me as I go along. So you all know to ask a question, and I'll be much better prepared to answer those. So let me talk about our audience a little bit. So we have 4 kinds of audience. One is journalists at all stages. So we have journalists who work in professional newsrooms, who work in TV newsrooms, who work in radio newsrooms and digital newsrooms, all kinds of newsrooms at all levels of their career. And we teach them almost about anything. So we will, if there is a need for some kind of training, whether it is skill sets, leadership, whether they want to get feedback on their employees, we do all of it. And we'll find a teacher for it. So we design our curriculum or we design our workshops in ways that allow for people to get applicable skills. And we'll talk a little bit more about applicable skills. So the first layer of audience is journalists. And journalists, wherever they go. So for example, if journalists go into a PR job or a marketing job, or they become researchers for lawyers, or like Dan Gresh start their own businesses, we train journalists in every moment in their lives, right? The second layer of audience is college educators, because we try and stay ahead of the industry, and we also act as a bridge between academics and professionals in the industry. So, some skills that professors can teach that translate into the newsroom, we teach those. And what is the industry doing? Where are we heading? What is the future? How is the business shaping around journalism? We teach that to journalists, to educators. So that's a second tier. The third tier is students. So we we teach high school students, we teach college students, we teach journalism students, we teach students of colleges that have a newspaper or a college paper but have no journalism program as such. So we teach anybody who is interested in the skills of journalism. The fourth layer of the audience is what we are starting to call as brand journalists, and that I place like all B2B business writers or people who have gone into marketing, advertising, copywriting, research, who have left journalism as an industry but have taken their skills and values into other professions. So that's our new upcoming layer of audience. And why I'm saying I'm seeing a growth in this audience in the last 3 or 4 years, because of the plight that the journalism industry has been for a while now. You know, newsprint prices are going up. Newspaper organizations are unsustainable. Digital is not bringing in enough advertising. We don't have the resources to put into, say, mobile or apps or AI or whatever it is. And we face the same kind of competition like other industries, right? It's the resource crunch. So we had to kind of work around all this. So what we do, we train on one, skills like journalism skills. So whether it is writing or SEO or where we are doing what we are doing with drone photography, we cover every layer of it. So for example, 2 years, I think in 2016 December, I had gone up to Cleveland to talk to the North Coast media people. And I'd spent there about a day where we talked about analytics, we talked about writing headlines, we talked about SEO, we talked about, how to publish and display your content, how to make the content engaging. Plus we talked about like evergreen content or multimedia story content and digital tools that would help people not just write, but also design and also produce interactive content that allows people to engage more. So we are doing all of this. So currently we are focusing on 4 different kinds of teaching. One is we go into news organizations and we call that custom teaching. So for example, if a group of your writers thinks that they need help with understanding their analytics or learning SEO skills, or how do we write or come up with great ideas for newsletters? How do we design and publish newsletters? Anything starting from how to write or how to coach somebody to write or how to write a report or how to write an opinion. You ask for it and we will teach that. So whether it's podcasting skills, whether you want to diversify your content from straight up a print product to a super duper mobile product. You want to start using drones to capture footage of your construction industry or whatever. And we will teach you how to improve on the content you gather or create, right? So for example, we did last year a whole series on how to become drone pilots. What are the ethics of drone piloting? How do you gather storytelling content using drones? What are the sorry, does somebody have a question?
No, go ahead. It's just very interesting about drone. Wow.
Okay. Yes. So last year we did that, and we went to 4 different cities and did like 3-day-long workshops, and we are continuing to build that community of drone pilots who got their FAA license. So we are still supporting them as they study through their piloting license, but they're journalists, right? So they're using this piloting license for drones and gathering content and then doing storytelling with that content, right? So this year what we are doing, since it was like such a successful thing that we jumped off of, so this year we are honing into the skill of photography within how do you gather the best footage using a drone? So you are a pilot, you're already flying, or you're training to be a pilot, or you are doing this in areas that you can fly, and you are gathering photos or camera footage or video. What tips, tools, techniques, and storytelling ideas do you apply on this footage? So we are doing a series of 4 webinars next year in March, 2019 March, so that you can really learn that it is not just like the latest fad or the latest gimmick or, oh, I love to fly drones, but you can actually take the footage and enhance your skills to do this. So we jump off. So we learn from our audience members, because we do, and Lori was talking about measuring training, and the way we do it, and it's a really unsophisticated way of measuring training, but we do a multiple prong thing. So we not only use analytics tools, and we use Google and Chartbeat and a couple of other social media engagement tools to discern how our audience is coming, where they are coming. But we also have a very robust way of getting their feedback via emails, or we'll do a survey from time to time. Or supposing if I do a 4-week course, then I send a short survey, a pre-seminar survey and a post-seminar survey to get the evaluations from people as to how we can improve our teaching, what they found useful, what sessions they want to come back to do, what did we miss, what they didn't find useful, or what they would like to hear from us more of. So we do a tiny little survey with using a SurveyMonkey tool, and we kind of prompt them, and we give them candy, because journalists will work for food. So we give them, say, candy or a cup or a mug or something for fulfilling the evaluations. But even that, not too much. At the most, we'll give them a coupon for enrolling in an online course. If I'm doing it online, then the reward for filling their post-evaluation is that they can attend another webinar. And we have really, really loyal customers. So a lot of our customers are enrolled, or they come back and again and again and again for webinars. So now,
Sadisha, that connection you talked about between reporters and SEO, analytics and data, and so being able to understand that, I think is becoming crucial in everyone's departments here. What they have to know. What's kind of the most important part of that learning? Are the reporters receptive, or what are you finding? Because that's, as Lori talked about, the breaking down of silos.
Right.
Understanding all that is
right. So approaching audience analytics. Let me give you an example of analytics. Right. So we could teach you how to use Google Analytics, for example, or Chartbeat or whatever. But that's just part of the coaching. So remember, I was talking about applicable skills. So what we teach is how do you change your habits after you have learned about analytics? So as a journalist, right, how would you change your daily habit of writing or reporting or engaging your audience on social media? What should you do? So as a business reporter, how do you understand when your audience is trying to engage with you? As an education reporter, should you be doing, who's your audience? Is it your students? Is it the parents? Is it the school? Is it the school board? Is it the policymakers? So once you understand that, then how do I change my habit of posting? When do I post? How do I post? And so supposing I'm talking about drop-off rates. So I'm looking at you reading an article that you have written and you've poured your heart and soul in it, but people are dropping off after 4 paragraphs. So then we talk about how do you improve your writing skills or presentation skills, right? So what do you do with multimedia content? How do you add a visual or a graphic or whatever? So we talk about not just analytics as numbers, but analytics as a decision-making tool. So since we don't have money to do major audience marketing research, this becomes a good source for us to understand the audience.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Did that answer the question? So ultimately, this also leads us back to the gaps in the curriculum in the education field, right? So there is a lot of journalists who are in a professional setting don't have time to attend a degree class. They don't have time to attend a semester-long session. So we reduce the time. So now if you learn video storytelling skills from us, maybe in 3 days I can teach you something that you have never picked up a camera to producing a publishable story by the end of it. We'll cover the techniques, tools, cameras, plus storytelling, plus editing, plus audio, and then you will have a story by the end of it. So all of us here at Pointer are journalists. We have my team who does all of e-learning has 4 people, and only 1 person is an instructional designer in it. The rest, all of us are journalists. So what I like to say is we are in the business of education, but our product is journalism.
Right.
So I approach everything like that. So talk to us, email us if you need to better your journalism skills. How do you write better? How do you engage better? How do you reach audience? And that's all I would say. For us, journalists are our soul. We will support them at any stage of their career. And when I say journalists, I mean writers, reporters, people who write and publish for their publications, whether you are a blogger or you are a photographer or you are a video journalist or, learning to compute for AI.
And on the screen now, those are free newsletters?
These are all free newsletters.
Okay.
So our major, we also do leadership lessons. From journalism, we do leadership lessons. So we do a lot of 360-degree evaluation. So if we'll bring a group of managers and leaders from your organization, and we do an intense 2 to 3 days of workshops with them, either here in St. Petersburg or in your newsroom. And we talk about, how you give feedback, how you have difficult conversations, how you build a team, how do you manage change, and, how do you increase your revenue sources. We are still trying to get our heads around that because otherwise we would have an answer. But, explore possibilities. So.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much. I think your point about changing habits is right on. So let me see if anyone out there, does anyone have a comment or question for Vidisha or Lori? Maybe something you're doing in-house or would like to do? I'll call on Abe. How does this strike you, the difference with professional teaching versus on the college level?
Well, on the college level, I think, our challenge is, just keeping up with all these seminal changes. It's really the same challenge as the business. We keep changing our curriculum. We just started a new concentration in economics and technology of business, as a grad specialization. We went to a very successful sports concentration, which we were already placing 1 zillion people in, but now we have 2 zillion people. And we have a social justice program. In the B2B sphere, we have my class, we have the McAllister Fellows, Jeff Klein from 1105 Media is coming in 2 weeks. And so, it's just a question of probably more turning that to the business itself. Just both the faculty staying alert to the industry and also, just really observing the students and who are different in terms of their work habits. They tend to work in groups. They're extremely adept in social media, of course. It's a stereotype, but it happens to be true. Bill McDowell said something to me. We were talking in a different context a week or two ago, and in terms of staffing, he said something. It was in reference to a client of mine, and he talked about having they have profited at his company by really hiring a younger person. But he was very and she happens to be quite good. But he said that you have to be very cautionary not to make her the digital kid and dump everything on that person. You still want to train up your staff to be cross-platform. So I mean, there's no red pill for this thing, but it's. We're all involved in the work in progress. Aligning our curriculum, still teaching the verities, and we're really trying to branch out. I mean, if someone has a specific question, I could probably handle that. But
sure. Thank you. No.
I was just wondering what kind of training you guys offer about the employee review process.
Employee review, is that what I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Right, yeah, the employee review. Yep.
For Vidisha, was that?
So for us. So Lori, when we do a leadership seminar, so we have a leadership academy coming in where leaders from different organizations will be here. So what we do is before they come here, we do a 360-degree evaluation, which we call the viewpoint. Meaning we send a list of questions to the employee, the person who's coming over, and they send it to 5 different people in their organizations or more if they can, who give feedback on the set of questions that we have assigned to them. And based on that, we give them one-on-one coaching when they come here, and we do a complete here it is. Read what your colleagues think about you and where they find your strengths and where they find your weaknesses. But we tell them to that it requires a lot of courage for people to say something because you may have sent it to an employee of yours or your boss. So it's like a 360-degree feedback on a set of questions. And then when they come here, they read that profile, that feedback, and then they create a project plan based on that. So you will be surprised how encouraged they are because they don't realize that, oh my God, my people think so well of me and I never knew. Because we in any organization, we forget to communicate and we forget to give feedback. So this is something that we do. We call it a 360-degree evaluation.
That's great.
And this can be done within an organization. There is software available that you can do, or you can get in touch with us, and that can be done. And our leadership faculty kind of coaches you on how to take it and how to work with it and how to understand yourself better so that you can work with the team.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And Lori, are you still on this call?
I'm still here, yes.
Great. I was wondering if you have found other resources for managers as far as employee reviews.
Yes. So for the employee review process, for the first 2 years that I was here, I created in-house content in terms of for the employee how to write your self-assessment. And then for the manager, how to prepare for the review, how to communicate during the review, how to handle difficult conversations, and then how to deliver the review. I'm considering for the next year, now that we have our corporate executive board membership and the Gartner content, I'm considering using some of their content to enhance what we've done in the past. Their content would include more lengthy webinars that our employees could access, sort of like training at your fingertips when you're ready, so that you can be prepared for the process. But I have also found good content on lynda.com. So for us, it tends to be a layered approach. So we'll have in-house content that illustrates how to do it the Hanley Wood way, and then we'll have some best practice content where I would pull in something from lynda.com or something off the shelf from a third-party provider.
Yeah, and I would just say, it's John. I work on the sort of editorial side of Hanley Wood, and as many different organizations as I've worked at, there's always been kind of a challenge around how to appropriately review editorial folks within a corporation that has kind of different values and standards and measures of employee performance. So the introduction of the whole sort of self-evaluation and self-assessment process as part of the review has been a really kind of a very dynamic and helpful way to have a much more productive review process over the last few years. So it's made it so that there can be far more kind of specific conversations on what the expectations are and how they can be met.
Right, and then I'll just add to that. One of my goals for the next year or so is to start nudging our managers toward a continuous development process versus the annual employee review as being sort of the highlight. And I know a lot of other companies are doing that, and I don't think we would ever get rid of the annual review, but I would like to get us into more regular performance conversations so that at the end of the year, when it's time to do the annual review, it's simply a wrap-up.
What do you stress when you do your reviews? This is actually a very big thing in academia, which was supposed to show growth of students, and you never know whether it's just they're 3 years older or we actually did something. I mean, how much of it is volume? How much of it is response from an audience that we now can hear from readily? How much of it is awards? Do you have a matrix or just a general impression?
At Hanley Wood, we don't provide our managers with a matrix system for the reviews, although I have seen some of the reviews come back with that sort of data on it. Our reviews are more general, giving the managers more freedom to kind of put in those metrics if they want to. When our reviews are, again, they are very manual. They're all done in a Word document. So there's lots of room to add that sort of information. But basically, we are looking at progress toward goals from last year. We're looking at meeting company values and those sorts of general topics.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else? Good questions. I think John and I may have stumbled on another topic here. That's important. It's good. Okay, let me just the last couple of minutes, just some housekeeping here. Well, I definitely want to thank Lori and Vidisha, and we'll send out contact information and where this recording will be.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Not quite done here yet, but so the Neal Awards, launch date October 15th. David Longobardi, the chair, and you can see a new category. And Allison, are you still on? Is that they can contact you if they have any ideas?
Yeah, they can contact me.
Okay. And you have a meeting this Friday?
Correct.
With that committee? Okay. All right, and then we have our BIMS conference coming up. A special code has been created for this committee that would save you $200 off the current rate. I think the best thing for this committee is again, as we've talked about silos breaking down, it would give you a really good chance to meet folks from other departments, and it's a really good conference. It's our 5th year doing it. Yeah, we don't have a date set yet. I know John and I, we always go over our schedules, so we'll, like this time, at least give a month's warning or so. And if you have other ideas, please don't hesitate to let us know what that might be. I know podcasting is kind of jumping out for me, so that's one thing I might ask around on. John, anything else before we leave here?
No, I'm grateful for the folks who spoke and making time for the call today. Please, let us know if there's a rich area for you to kind of want to query your peers on, so we can we'll put that on the radar.
Yeah, it was a really nice balance today. I like that. All right, well, thank you. I know how busy everyone is, so I really appreciate. We really appreciate your participation. And talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.
Bye.